The Wallace Business Forum, WBF, was established November the 19th in 1982. Initially as AYC Consultants Inc., which is now WBF's sister company, to keep CEOs of multinational companies abreast of events unfolding in the country and how they would impact on the operating environment. This was the period when the economy was already feeling the stresses of badly run, heavily indebted, state-sponsored monopolies and crony corporations. This was also the period when Filipinos were beginning to challenge the Marcos dictatorship, and in less than a year, the homecoming opposition leader, Benigno Aquino, was assassinated on the tarmac of the airport that now bears his name, a terrible event. 2 months later, the Philippine government declared a unilateral moratorium on foreign debt payments, sending the economy into crisis. Consequently, credit lines were cut off, and during the 2 years that followed, the country suffered its worst economic crisis since World War II. It was a bad time. It was also the beginning and the end of Marcos rule, as the EDSA revolution in February 1986 eventually forced the strongman to flee the country. I'd lost my third job here when a new owners came in to take over Getz Corporation, where I was the chief executive at the time. And we didn't agree. We didn't agree on how business should be done in Asia. They'd never been to Asia, but they thought they knew how to do business. I'd only spent 20 years or so in Asia, so what would I know? We parted company. So I was looking for a new job, and my wife and I, we were discussing, should we go back to Australia, maybe move to Singapore or Hong Kong, because the business opportunities in the Philippines were pretty lean at that time, and it didn't look too promising. But then some of our friends said, Peter, look, we need help. Can you do some research for us? And so we thought about that, and we thought, yeah, why not? Let's give this a try. And so I started to do research for these companies, and Esty, my wife, had been executive secretary, so she did the typing, and we operated out of our house in Wak Wak for some time. But we needed a corporation to operate under. So on November 19, 1982, we formed AYC Consultants Inc. Now, why AYC? Because Esty and I were keen sailors. In fact, at one time I was Commodore of the Yacht Club. And we decided that we would like to have a new yacht. And we looked at having one built here and weren't very happy with the workmanship or the capability. We looked in Singapore, we looked in Hong Kong. We looked for somewhere that would do a quality yacht of our design. And we found a small boat yard up in Japan, a small town called Gifu. And they had the design from a famous yacht architect out of San Diego. A beautiful boat, 42-footer. And we decided we would have that boat built there. But we needed an entity within which to do it because it was an international purchase. So we formed a company in Hong Kong called Asian Yacht Centre. That was back in July of 1979, I believe. And it was that company that basically contracted for the yacht. And the yacht was built, and then we sailed it back to the Philippines. 17 days of storms before we hit Luwag. And for many years we enjoyed that boat thoroughly. We did the China Sea Race from Hong Kong to Manila several times. And we sailed it all around Philippine waters. But when we formed the company in '82, we weren't very imaginative in those days. We couldn't think of a name. So we just chose the initials, AYC. So AYC doesn't stand for some fancy consulting thing. It stands for Asian Yacht Centre. Of course, it has nothing to do with yachts in these days. It has much more to do with professional consulting.
Well, given the many options that I have, what made me decide to join what used to be Business International, EIUP, and now Wallace Business Forum, Well, to tell you frankly, my first experience with BI at the time was doing a concept paper for a USAID program to help promote exports and investments in the Philippines. And eventually that program helped organize the Philippine export industry into what it is now. And it has grown a lot because of that contribution by USAID. And I felt proud being part of that group that started it all. And I thought this was a company that, you know, creates value to its client. So I joined, and eventually I realized that it is also a company who values my contribution. So that means a lot to me, because in my past engagement in the government, for example, we do some terrific numbers, billions of pesos, but frankly, we had no idea where this is going, whether this is impacting on the people. And here, I realized that, you know, our contribution are really having impact on business.
During the 30 years of its existence, WBF AYC has assisted many companies to establish a presence or introduce their brands into the country, to clear up regular issues with the government, or prepare position papers on subjects affecting their industry and businesses. WBF has also conducted primary research and advocacy on policy reforms beneficial to business that were then presented to government.
You know, how have we helped companies here? What have we done to make it a better opportunity for companies to do business here? Well, we've done a couple of key things. The primary one has been what we now call the Wallace Business Forum, which sprung out of AYC. And it went back to the days after a couple of years of the operation of AYC. We were approached by a group called Business International, BI, who were out of Hong Kong but operated internationally, helping businesses to understand operations in different countries. And they asked if we would represent them in the Philippines. We discussed it at some length and decided, yes, this was a good relationship to have. And so we accepted. And we changed the name, or basically formed another company called BI Philippines Inc. And together with them, a chap called George Bater, who was heading it then, and I, we developed the system we have today of, roundtables, of monthly reports, of special reports, etc., that we provide today to chief executives. And it went very well. And then some years later, The Economist came along under EIU, the Economist Intelligence Unit, and they bought BI. So having purchased BI, they were now basically the people that we would be representing. And so with their agreement, we changed the name again, and this time to EIU Philippines Inc. And at this period, and late in the BI time too, actually, BI had gone around the region appointing people in each country, similar to myself, to represent in those countries. And we developed this network of what we call the associates today, each of us doing a similar thing in each country. And we developed a regional operation as well. So we were helping regional managers who were dealing in more than one country. And we had regular regional conferences in different countries, in-country conferences, etc. So then The Economist came along, bought out BI, we changed the name to EIU Philippines Inc. And that relationship developed again over about a decade or so. But some years ago, the relationship declined rather. EIU had, to a great extent, lost interest in this kind of business, it seemed. And we didn't see the value anymore in the relationship. And our associates elsewhere in Asia felt the same way. And as a group, we decided to part ways with EIU. So we would obviously have to relinquish the name. I talked to my clients, and they recommended that I use my own name because it was quite well known at the time. So we created the Wallace Business Forum as a name. So the Wallace Business Forum as a name is relatively recent, but the corporation, of course, as an ongoing corporation, does go back those 30 years. So it's only name changes during the time. And what we did to help businesses, apart from this general advice, information on what's happening, what's going on, we also did special reports for them, specific reports. Market studies help them to understand the market they're in, the competition they're dealing with, where to look for opportunities to grow those markets that they were already in, or how to look for new markets. We did feasibility studies. Is a new product, a new idea, a new venture, a new production that they're looking at viable? Is it worth doing? We did the research to determine that. And we also did policy work, much of it funded by international agencies like ADB, USAID, etc. And these, in the times of much change in the Philippines, were an important input into the governments who were learning themselves on what to do and where to go. And so we did a number of, what I would call policy studies that looked at how to improve the business lot in the Philippines in different specific areas, whether it was infrastructure or on the fiscal side or on the international marketing side. We did, a couple of dozen, I guess, different projects of this kind. So in these ways we were able to help, I think, bring the Philippine economy, business relationship with government to a much closer understanding. I mean, obviously, many other people doing the same thing, but I think that we had some influence in being successful at getting a better deal for business and a greater stability out of government. There's still an awful long way to go, and so we've got many more years that we're going to have to try and continue to do that.
The reason I decided to join Wallace Business Forum years ago was because as a foreign CEO here running a business in the Philippines, a country with a different culture, different political and economic environment to what I was used to, I really needed insights and connections into that environment, which would help me in my decision making and to ensure the success and longevity of my own business interests here. Wallace Business Forum was the organisation that clearly stood out as being able to best deliver that information and those insights. Peter Wallace has been in the Philippines for approaching 40 years. Wallace Business Forum has been operating for 30. I don't know of anyone who has that length of service here and that length of success. The quality of the information, the research, the assessments for economic, political risk, those things that are important to me as a foreign investor, I couldn't see coming from anywhere else, certainly not with a proven track record which Peter Wallace brings to the table. So the decision to join Wallace Business Forum was an easy one and one which I have no regrets about.
What makes us unique, what sets us apart? I think it's the ability, as I have in my column, to tell it like it is. We're in a country where most people are reluctant to criticise, to come out openly in what a situation is. We have been fearless in stating it as we see it. So I think what has made us unique is this ability to go below the surface, to delve into what is behind actions that are happening, decisions that are being made or taken, and explain those to our clients. I think also we've had a very strong research group under my VP, Bing Ikamina, who has professionally looked into each issue. And I think we've developed a very good reputation for whatever we tell has been well researched, is not just gossip. We don't use gossip at all, but we use as much as we can fact. Now obviously we're going to be wrong sometimes. It's very hard sometimes to get the right information. But in the main, I think our record has been quite good on this and better than most. And I think this is one of the things that has taken us apart from others, is this in-depth research into what actually is the situation to be able to report it as accurately as we can to our clients.
In 2010, the research and management consultancy tasks of AYC were transferred to WBF to enhance and diversify WBF's revenue base and lay the groundwork for its long-term growth. WBF also welcomed new partners to continue its legacy for several decades more. AYC became an entity handling the personal consultancy and advisory projects of the founder of WBF AYC, me, Peter Wallace. In recent times, WBF continued to adapt to the changing business environment, providing more industry-oriented reports, upgrading its website by adapting to ever-evolving technology, and issuing more frequent, timely news updates to its members. Presently, it counts some 120 CEOs, foreign diplomats, country heads of international aid agencies, and chief executives of government agencies and instrumentalities as members.
So I'm gradually institutionalizing the business, reducing the personalization of it, which is inevitable in any consulting company. And this is working quite well. Also, we are adapting quite rapidly to the incredible changes in technology and communications that have grown over the last decade or so. I think the speed with which change is happening today is one of the most exciting things that I have ever seen. But it does mean that everyone is beginning to have to think and adapt differently to that. There was a time that everything we sent out was on paper. There was no other way to send it. The most modern thing of those days was a fax or a telegram. Today, of course, it's the internet. It's the Google and the Twitter and all those other complicated, fancy new things. And that's the arena that we have to play in today. And people expect to get information more quickly than in the past. Things are moving faster. We have to be able to react quicker. So one of the most important changes we're making is to move more with the technology of the world, to be a part of that, to be a leader of that in the way in which we provide and disseminate information.
There have been recent initiatives like looking for partners to continue the legacy of the Wallace Business Forum and AYC. And there have been some transfer as far as of tasks from AYC to WBF, especially the research-oriented ones, to diversify the functions and the contributions of WBF to increase its value, enhance its value. So I think we should go towards that direction.
Well, for the future and the expansion and the ability of the forum to help more business operators and CEOs, I'd like to see the branding extended internationally. Wallace Business Forum has been very successful at a local level within the Philippines with foreign investors and local companies as well. But there's a larger market of companies which could invest in the Philippines and whose shareholders might be enriched by them investing in the Philippines. That message needs to get out. Wallace Business Forum is a great evangelist of the Philippines as an investment destination. I'd like to work further to extend that reach internationally, to encourage foreign investment and ensure in many ways the success of those investments through research, information and helping foreign companies to make the right decisions about how to enter this market.
What can I say to my clients, to my staff? I think it's pretty obvious. Loyalty is a very valued attribute in human relations. That and long-term friendships are so much of what life is all about. And the loyalty of my staff comes from a belief in what we do and what we are trying to do. In a belief, like I have, that we can make a positive difference to doing business in the Philippines, to creating a better economy in the Philippines. But we couldn't do it without the support of our clients. So those who've stayed with us throughout these decades, who have been loyal to us for so long, make what we are doing worthwhile. And I must thank them for staying with us, for supporting us. It's made it all very much worthwhile. Thank you.